The desert night was quiet. Just the sound of wind and a few insects. James, a young mechanic, was lying on the roof of his small garage, looking at the stars. He loved the night sky. It made him feel free. But tonight, something strange happened. Bright flash crossed the sky. At first, James thought it was a shooting star, but then it grew bigger and brighter. It was falling fast, too fast. Boom. A loud explosion shook the ground. Dust and fire lit up the night. Something had crashed in the desert, not far from his garage. James jumped up. He grabbed his flashlight, tools, and a small first aid box. Whatever had fallen, it could be dangerous, or maybe someone was hurt. He ran into the dark desert, following the smoke and fire. After 20 minutes, he reached the crash site. His eyes widened. It was not a plane. It was not from Earth. A silver, glowing spaceship, half buried in sand, lay in front of him. Its surface was cracked. Steam hissed from broken parts. Lights blinked in alien patterns. James couldn't believe it. This was real. A real alien ship. Carefully, he stepped closer. One of the side doors was open. Smoke poured out. Inside, he heard something move. James took a deep breath and climbed inside. There, lying on the floor, was a girl. Not just any girl, an alien, but she looked almost human. Pale skin, glowing blue eyes, long silver hair. Her clothes were strange and futuristic. She was injured, bleeding from her arm and leg. She looked at James with fear, but also pain. "Help. Please," she said weakly. Her voice had a strange accent, but he could understand her. James nodded. "Don't worry. I'll help you." He quickly used his first aid kit. He cleaned her wounds and wrapped her arm. She winced but didn't fight. She looked young, maybe his age, 18 or 19. She seemed scared and confused. "My name is James," he said. "You're safe now." "I am, Lyra," she whispered. "I crashed." "I ran away. From who?" James asked. But she closed her eyes and passed out. James knew he couldn't leave her here. If the government found her, they would take her away, maybe hurt her, maybe worse. He had to hide her. With effort, he lifted her up and carried her back to his garage. It was hard, but he managed. He laid her on a bed in his workshop. Then he went back to cover the crash site. He threw sand over the ship to hide it, at least for now. For the next few days, Lyra stayed in his garage. James took care of her, gave her food, and helped her heal. Slowly she began to trust him. She told him small things. Her ship was from another galaxy. She had run away from her home planet. But she didn't say why. James didn't push her. He just listened. He started fixing her ship in secret, using parts from old machines. He didn't know much about alien tech, but he was smart. He figured out how to power up the system. Every day, Lyra looked stronger. She smiled more. James liked her. She wasn't just beautiful, she was kind and brave. One evening, while she slept, James got curious. He entered the ship to check something. Maybe he could speed up the repair. He touched the screen. It turned on. Strange alien words flashed. But some were in English auto translated. Suddenly, a warning came on the screen. Danger. Royal blood detected. Do not interfere. James froze. Royal blood? He whispered. She's a princess? The screen showed more. Subject, Lyra Valzar, daughter of Supreme Warlord Zarnak, ruler of the Zyrak Galaxy. Status, missing. High alert. James felt cold. He stepped back. This girl was not just any alien. She was the daughter of a powerful alien king, and she had run away. Why? Was she in danger? Or was Earth in danger now? Suddenly, the ship made a loud beep. A signal was sent. James panicked. Had someone tracked her? Was someone coming? He looked back at Lyra sleeping peacefully. Whatever the truth was, it was much bigger than he thought. Now he was part of it. James couldn't sleep. The warning on the ship's screen kept playing in his head. Danger, royal blood detected. Lyra Valzar, daughter of Supreme Warlord Zarnak. A princess. A real alien princess was sleeping. In his garage, he stared at her from the doorway, confused and scared. She looked peaceful, so human. But her bloodline had just made his entire planet a target. What if her father came looking? What if Earth became a battlefield? He didn't know what to do. The next morning, Lyra woke up early. She was already sitting outside, drinking water, looking at the sky. James sat beside her. After a few moments, he said quietly, "I saw the warning on your ship." Lyra didn't look surprised. She didn't even deny it. "I knew you would," she said. Her voice was calm but sad. It was only a matter of time. "Why didn't you tell me your royalty?" She looked at him now. "Because being a princess means nothing when you're a prisoner." James frowned. "A prisoner?" She nodded. "My father wants power, always more. He rules over 10 star systems with war and fear. He wanted to use me to gain more by marrying me off to one of his generals. A monster. A killer." Her hands were shaking slightly. "I said no. So I ran away." James didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to ask more. Part of him just wanted to protect her. "But if he finds you," he began. "He will find me," she said, interrupting. "He never lets anything go. Especially not his property." There was silence between them. Then the sky changed. A deep blue crack opened in the clouds like a wound in the air. A swirling energy vortex appeared above the desert. It was huge and loud. Wind blasted around them. James covered his face. A voice echoed from the sky, deep, cold, full of rage. "Lyra Valzar, return to your blood. You have dishonored the House of Zarnak." Lyra stood up. Her face turned pale. James grabbed her hand. "We have to run." But before they could move, beams of light shot down from the vortex. Figures appeared, tall, armored aliens, glowing with strange energy. Zyrak. Soldiers. James pulled out a wrench. It was stupid, but it was all he had. Lyra stepped in front of him. "No," she said softly. "They won't hurt you, not yet." One of the soldiers raised a device. "By royal order, the runaway is to be taken, and the human processed." James stepped forward. "She's not going anywhere unless she wants to." The soldier didn't respond. Instead, he pressed a button. A sharp wave of energy hit James. His body went numb. He collapsed to the ground, unable to move. Lyra screamed, trying to reach him, but 2 soldiers grabbed her. The last thing James saw before blacking out was Lyra's tear-filled eyes looking back at him, and her voice yelling, "James, don't let them change you." James woke up to cold metal under his back. The sky was gone. The desert was gone. Everything was gray and steel. He was in a cell, or maybe a cage. Suddenly, a robotic voice echoed in his ears. "Welcome to Zyrak Military Boot Camp. Species, human. Rank, disposable." A metal door opened. 2 robots entered, holding weapons. One said, "Stand up. Training begins now. Survive or die." James stared at them, confused. "Training? For what?" The robots smiled in a twisted way. "For war. You've been gifted to the Zyrak army by Lord Zarnak himself, as punishment for touching his daughter." James's blood ran cold. From falling for an alien girl to being forced into an alien war. He had no idea how he would survive. But one thing was clear. He had to get out, and he had to find Lyra. Silence. Then pain. James gasped as cold water splashed across his face. He opened his eyes. The light was too bright. The floor beneath him was metal. The air smelled like burning wires and blood. He wasn't on Earth anymore. He was inside. Giant alien facility, dark walls, strange machines, flickering lights. His arms were chained to the floor. His head throbbed. Where am I? He whispered. A deep voice answered, robotic and cruel. Welcome to Unit 6X, Zyrak Military Boot Camp. James looked up. In front of him stood a huge armored Alien 7. Feet tall, skin like steel, eyes glowing red. I'm your instructor, the alien said. You're human, weak, soft. You won't last a week. James tried to stand but fell. His legs felt broken. I didn't ask to be here, James said. Breathing hard. Let me go, the alien laughed. You touched the princess. Now you serve the army. It's tradition. Behind the alien, a screen showed a message. Human subject. James, status, training for combat. Mission, survive or die. Suddenly, the walls shifted. The chains unlocked. Training begins now, the alien said. If you fall, you die. Without warning, the floor opened beneath James. He fell into total darkness. He hit the ground hard. Lights turned on. James looked around. He was in a metal arena. At the far end, something moved, a creature, huge, 4 arms. Teeth like knives. A voice echoed through the speakers. Test 1. Fight or be eaten. James stood up slowly. No weapons, no armor. Just his mind, the alien. Beast charged. James ran. He dodged behind a pillar, grabbed a broken pipe from the ground. The creature roared and smashed the pillar. James rolled, stabbed the pipe into the beast's leg. It screamed, giving him a second to climb a ledge. He saw electric wires above, sparking. Without thinking, he jumped, ripped one down, and threw it at the creature. It shot the beast. It collapsed. James was breathing hard. He had won. Barely. Later, he sat in a cell bleeding, shaking, tired, but alive. Other aliens watched him through the bars. Some laughed. Some looked surprised that no human had ever lasted 1 day in this camp. But James had. Days passed. More tests. More pain, more fights. James learned fast. He wasn't strong, but he was smart. He made traps, used tools, watched how the other aliens fought. He built his own weapons out of scraps, blades, slingshots, even a mini shock bomb. Some aliens began to respect him. Others hated him more, but James didn't care. He had one goal, find Lyra. One night, while cleaning his wounds, he heard voices outside his cell. 2 alien officers were talking. The princess is back in the palace, locked down. Her wedding is in 3 weeks. To General Vork? Yes, the king wants the human far away before then. That's why he's here, a punishment. James felt like the air had left his lungs. Lyra was alive, but trapped, and being forced into marriage. He clenched his fists. He had to escape. 2 more weeks passed. Then came the final test. James stood in the center of a large pit. Above him, alien commanders watched, including the same one who trained him. In this test, the commander growled, you fight your own kind. A metal door opened. Another human stepped out, taller, older, with a cold look in his eyes. James was confused. Who are you? The man didn't answer. He charged. They fought hard, fists, kicks, blood. But James didn't want to kill. He dodged, disarmed, and finally trapped the man under a broken gate. The alien commanders were impressed. The lead officer stood and said, you pass. You are no longer disposable. You are now a soldier of the Zyrak Empire. James was pulled from the pit and taken to a new room. There, a tall alien in gold armor handed him a black uniform. You are now part of the Royal Guard, he said. James stared at the armor. Cold, heavy, powerful. It came with access to the palace. To Lyra. Took the uniform slowly, and for the first time, he smiled. The king had made a mistake. He hadn't destroyed James, he had trained him. Asterisk the Zyrak Palace was a cold mountain of steel, floating above a lava ocean on planet Cardor. No sun. No sky. Just darkness, fire, and endless silence. Inside this beast of a palace, James stood. Tall, dressed in the black and silver armor of the Zyrak Royal Guard. A human. Among monsters. But he wasn't afraid anymore. Every step James took echoed across the metallic floors. Alien guards watched him with curiosity and disgust. "Look at him," one whispered. "A human in our armor?" Another laughed. "Let's see how long he lasts." James ignored them. He had survived their boot camp. He had outsmarted their beasts. He had faced death a dozen times. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was planning. Every hallway he walked, every door he passed, every guard shift he noticed, he remembered. Mapped it in his mind. He knew Lyra was here, somewhere in this prison they called a palace, and he was going to find her. One evening, James was summoned. A loud horn echoed. Guards gathered in the central arena, massive and circular, with walls that reached the stars. The king's voice thundered through the speakers. "Let us welcome our newest royal guard, the human who thinks he is strong enough to stand beside my warriors." The audience booed. Some laughed. Others watched with cold silence. Then the gates opened. A giant creature stepped out, half machine, half beast, 12 feet tall, eyes glowing like fire. Its breath melted the floor beneath it. "Fight!" the king said. "Show us why you deserve that armor." James didn't move. He was armed with only a small plasma blade. The monster roared and charged like a tank. James ran, but not away. He ran toward the walls, up the broken pillars. He climbed with speed, jumped from ledges, stayed out of reach. The creature chased, but got slower. James dropped down behind it, stabbed at its weak leg. Sparks flew. The audience gasped. The creature turned, furious. It smashed everything around. James grabbed a chain from the wall, swung it like a whip. It wrapped around the creature's neck. He pulled with all his strength. The creature fell, choking, struggling, then collapsed with a heavy thud. Silence. Then a single clap. It was not the king. It was General Vork. The alien Lyra was being forced to marry. Vork stood, tall and armored, smiling in a way that felt like poison. "Well done, human," he said. "You might live longer than we expected." James said nothing, but his fists clenched tight. He now had a name. A face. The man who would marry Lyra, the one who kept her locked away, and he was standing right in front of him. That night, in Oud in Fig, his quarters, James accessed a control panel he had secretly hacked. He typed quickly, sweating. He broke through the palace's security system. He pulled up camera 9A, East Tower. There she was. Lyra, locked in a glass room. Dressed in ceremonial robes, her face looked tired. Her eyes looked empty. James stared for a long time. "I'm coming," he whispered, but he wasn't alone. A shadow moved outside his door. It was Kale, an alien guard who had trained with James during boot camp. Bigger, stronger, jealous. Kale had seen the hack the moment James left the room. Kale entered and replayed the footage. He saw James spying on the princess. His eyes narrowed. He smiled cruelly. "Let's see what the king thinks of this." James had no idea. He was walking to the armory, planning his next move, thinking about escape routes, guard patterns, hidden tunnels. But the trap was already set. And in just one day, everything would fall apart. The palace never slept. It only watched. Cameras in every wall, guards on every level, sensors in every breath of air. But even the most powerful prison has blind spots. And James had found one. It was an old tunnel, forgotten, dusty, carved beneath the royal palace back when the Zyrak throne was young. James had discovered it by accident while escaping a training drill. Now it was his key. A dark, narrow path that led ... straight to Tower 9. Straight to Lyra. Inside her glass room, Lyra stood by the window, staring into the endless black sky. Of Carter, her heart felt like ice. In 3 days, she would be forced to marry General Vork, the same man her father once called the Hand of Death. The wedding would unite 2 galactic warlords, and she would become a trophy. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. Double quotes James. Please don't forget me. Then behind her a whisper. Forget you? Not possible. She turned. He was there. James, standing in her room, armor dusty, eyes wild with hope. James? She breathed. He ran to her, and for a moment, they just held each other. No words, no questions, just silence and heartbeat. How did you? She started. He pulled out a small device. A little hacking. A little crawling through alien garbage tunnels. She laughed softly. For the first time in weeks, she felt alive. But then her face turned serious. If they catch you here, they'll kill you, or worse. I know, James said. That's why we don't get caught. They sat on the floor, speaking in whispers. James showed her maps, guard routes, shift changes. All the information he had stolen from the palace systems. He had a plan. Use the old tunnel at midnight. Sneak into the ship bay. Steal a jump cruiser. Escape through the lava cloud corridor during atmospheric shift. Only a 5-minute window. It was crazy. It was almost impossible. But it was hope. And for them, that was enough. Meanwhile, not far away. Kale, the jealous alien guard, stood before King Zarnak. He knelt, armor gleaming. I bring news, he said. The human. He's been meeting with the princes, in secret. The king's eyes burned with fury. How do you know? Kale showed him the footage. James entering the tower. Lyra hugging him. The maps, the whispering. Zarnak stood slowly. His voice was cold as stone. Let them play their little escape game. When they run, we will follow. And when the human sees what I do to those he loves, he will break. Back in the tower, Lyra looked at James. Why are you doing this? She asked softly. You could have gone home. You could be free. James looked into her eyes. Because when I met you, I stopped feeling lost. And if I can help you feel the same, then I've already won. A tear slipped from her eye. Not of sadness, but of love, she nodded. We escape tomorrow. But neither of them knew. They were already being hunted. Midnight. The palace was quiet, but not asleep. In the shadows below Tower 9, a hidden panel in the floor clicked open. Dust rose. A hand reached out. James. He climbed out of the tunnel, face covered in sweat, holding a stolen keycard. Behind him, Lyra followed, her royal dress now replaced by combat gear James had stitched together from guard uniforms. She had never looked more like a queen, not one born to rule, but one fighting for freedom. Are you sure this will work? Lyra whispered. James gave a tight smile. It has to. They moved fast, silent and precise. Every turn, every hallway had been planned. They used maintenance shafts, dark corners, and broken doorways. The palace was so massive that no one noticed 2 shadows moving through it. They passed the Great Hall, the throne room, and the war archive, where Zarak's most brutal victories were carved in black crystal. Lyra stopped for just a second to look. This is the world my father built, she said softly. Fear, blood, control. James took her hand. Let's burn it down. They reached the hangar bay, a giant steel chamber where dozens of warships rested. Guards patrolled above and below, but James knew the route. Third ship on the left, he whispered. Code is already in the drive. They ducked under a carrier wing and ran to the cruiser. James hacked the control panel. Beep, beep, green light. The door slid open. They climbed inside. For a second, they breathed. Freedom was only seconds away, but then the lights turned red. Sirens screamed. Warning, sector breach. Escape attempt detected. No, 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 James yelled. Lyra spun around. They knew. From all directions, guards stormed the hangar. James slammed the launch button. The engine roared to life. "We still have time," he shouted. A blast hit the side of the cruiser. It shook violently. Sparks flew. James looked through the window, and his blood ran cold. "General." Vork stepped into the hangar. He wasn't angry. He was smiling. "Such passion," Vork said, voice echoing. "Such effort. And for what?" "A runaway girl and a garbage-born human." James stepped forward, aiming the plasma cannon. Vork didn't flinch. "Shoot me," he said. "But the moment you do, 20 plasma turrets will rip this ship apart." Lyra shouted from the cockpit. "We're surrounded." James's hands trembled. The dream was ending. Suddenly, a second alarm went off. "Warning, internal system override." All the screens in the hangar flickered. Then, the voice of Kale echoed through the speakers. "Yes, General Vork, surrounded, just like you." The guards looked around, confused. Kale appeared on the main screen. "I never liked the human," he said, "but I like you even less. Vork, you cheated in the trials. You stole your rank. You don't deserve to rule." Vork screamed. "Traitor," Kale laughed. "Enjoy the fireworks." The hangar lights exploded. Gas burst from vents. Gravity went offline. Chaos. James and Lyra floated, grabbed the controls, and launched the ship. Vork fired at them. Missed. Turrets exploded as Kale's virus shut down palace defenses. The ship turned, sped through the exit tunnel, straight toward the lava cloud corridor. They had 5 minutes to escape before the sky closed. Inside the ship, Lyra took the pilot seat. James dropped beside her, bleeding from his arm. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "We're not free yet." Outside the window, the lava cloud swirled violently. Fire, rock, debris. No one had ever flown through it. James strapped in, grabbed the controls with her. "Then let's make history." The ship roared through the storm. Fire slammed against the hull. Systems screamed. Everything shook. They couldn't see anything. Just light, heat, death. Then silence. The stars appeared. They were out. They were free. James turned to Lyra, smiling, but she wasn't smiling back. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. "James!" Boom. The ship was hit. From behind. One final plasma shot. Too fast. Too quiet to detect. Everything went black. James flew from his seat, smashed into the wall. The ship spun into space. Systems died. Lyra screamed. And then silence. Silence. Then a beep. One. Then another. Then a soft robotic voice. "Life form detected. Vital signs. Critical." James opened his eyes. Pain shot through his entire body. He was floating in a medical pod, glass around him, blood on his shirt. The world felt like it was underwater. He tried to speak, but no words came. His mind raced. Lyra. Where was she? He looked to the side. Another pod. Inside. Lyra. Unconscious but alive. He closed his eyes in relief. They had survived. The doors slid open. A new figure stepped in. Kale. But he wasn't in armor anymore. He was in robes, royal robes. "You're lucky," he said. "I pulled you from the wreck just in time. You were floating near the edge of Zyrac space, barely a pulse." James tried to sit up. "Lyra, she's safe. And she's going to need you." James frowned. "What happened after the shot?" Kale's face turned dark. "General Vork fired it, against orders. It broke every treaty, every law. But that mistake, that arrogance, gave me what I needed." He looked James in the eyes. "I started a rebellion." News spread across the Zyrac worlds. Vork had tried to kill the princess. The king had lied to his people. A human had survived the impossible and won the hearts of soldiers. Cities rose up. Ships turned their flags. The people demanded change. Kale led the movement, but It was Lyra who gave it power. 3 weeks later, the Grand Court of Xerak opened for the first time in 200 years. Crowds filled the halls. At the center stood King Zarnak, surrounded by guards, but he wasn't sitting on the throne. Lyra was. She had claimed her right through ancient law. Royal blood, if unjustly imprisoned, may challenge the ruler for the crown, if supported by 3 high generals. She had 4. And one of them was James. James stood beside her as she faced her father. "You used me like a weapon," she said. "Tried to control me like a trophy. You forced me to run. And you tried to kill the one person who ever treated me like I was human." Zarnak's voice was bitter. "You think love makes you a leader?" "No," she replied, "but courage does." The court fell silent as the judges delivered the verdict. "Zarnak, you are stripped of your title. Lyra Valzar, by blood and right, is now sovereign of the Xerak Empire." Zarnak screamed in rage, but no one listened. He was taken away, and just like that, a galaxy changed. Outside, the people celebrated. Fireworks lit up the sky. Ships flew in formation. Alien children held signs that said, "Long live Queen Lyra. Honor to the human warrior." James stood beside Lyra on the palace balcony. He was clean now, healed, dressed in white armor, lined with silver. Not a prisoner, not a survivor, a symbol, a hero. Lyra turned to him, smiling softly. "You still want to go back to Earth?" James looked out over the stars. "I don't know. Home doesn't feel like a place anymore." She stepped closer. "Maybe it's a person." They kissed, gently, quietly, under the twin moons of Xerak Prime, from mechanic to warrior, from runaway to queen. They didn't just fall in love, they changed the galaxy.